Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode number 80, August 3rd, 2020. I'm your host, Dave Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Man, did this dude just did this?
That dude just did that. And Terrence Chan. T, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Send it over to the drunk guy now.
And not in Las Vegas this week, in sunny Mexico, parts unknown in Mexico. We'll just leave it at that. Mr. Daniel Negreanu. Daniel, how are you?
All right, what's your fucking problem? Questions like that. Just curious.
What is the fucking problem?
Babe, this drink you made me, it's warm.
Oh, no.
Need more ice. No, I'm just kidding.
That might be the pea cup.
Honestly, today has been fantastic. We had an off day. I played the early Hong Kong flight of the Asia Series GG. I don't know. I actually tweeted this, that I am actually officially drunk, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that because such is life. You know, sometimes people drink, and it's, for me, once every 4 months or whatever.
4 months, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Poker's nice. I love to play poker.
I love playing poker. Yeah. So I woke up this morning. I'm on a gym schedule here because they actually are COVID sensitive where I am here in Mexico. So to go to the gym, you have to pick a time. And I know that I'm going to play tournaments later. So I'm actually on the 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. time slot for the gym. So it's just me by myself in this beautiful beach club gym. But, that means me completely shifting my schedule. Today we were out early and there's no events. So my wife and I decided to take advantage of the beautiful beach, the backyard. It's been great. We don't have our son with us. Our son is back home.
Eddie.
Well, actually,
Big Edward.
Yeah, no, I don't even know where he is now. I think he's traveling to play these events as well. But the bottom line is he came for a week and 7 months later, somehow he was, still in our house. So this is kind of nice for me and my wife to just have a little bit of alone time. I can't imagine how many times I've said I'm blessed today. My wife goes like this every time I do. I roll. She hates that, because everyone's like, hashtag blessed, hashtag I'm living in heaven. All these fake people who live in the world of Instagram was like, look at my life, it's perfect. Oh, fuck off. Okay, listen, we'll just start with, fuck off, Norman Chad. I mean, seriously.
Norman Chad. We're going right to Norman.
Fuck off, Norman
What happened
Chad.
with Norman?
Should I read the tweet? I've got it up right now.
Yeah, fire up the
Okay.
tweet.
Fuck Norman Chad.
Daniel Negreanu tweets that he doesn't drink often, but he's recording the podcast a little bit inebriated, as you might be gathering. At Norman Chad, I do not understand this bad piece of road you continue to travel at Real Kid Poker, a pathway you can exit at any time. I do not understand the desire to lace your public spaces with profane, inappropriate language. There's got to be a better way to proceed. No?
Fuck this guy. Did comedy just fucking no longer part of his vocabulary? Seriously, bro. It's not 1950. In 2020, especially on podcasts that are elective, this isn't cable, this isn't NBC or whatever, we can curse, and a lot of people do curse. You don't like cursing, guess what? Don't fucking listen. Oh, I'm a bad influence on the young generation of the people. Oh, listen, they curse just as much as I do, like sailors and whatever else. Right, babe?
Yeah.
My babe's got my back. So,
Okay.
Yeah, she says. Right.
I think my favorite tweet once. The tweet I got once from Chad Holloway was that he was once listening to I don't know if it was this podcast or the old podcast that I did with Adam, and he was like, that one curses a lot, and that was with me. So, I mean, I used to be the potty mouth of this show, but maybe if we have a little swear jar where we toss a quarter in there, maybe you can raise a few more funds.
Did you know studies have been done? Studies have been done, and people that curse are more intelligent, supposedly, and they're also more trustworthy, right? Because here's the thing, and we're getting drunk and we're going for it. A lot of the younger generation of poker players pretend they're these perfect fucking people who never have a bad day, and every Instagram picture is ideal, live above bullshit, okay? Sometimes you have a bad day, sometimes you scream, sometimes you yell, but it's there's this whole backlash against the idea of being a fucking human, Fuck that. You're not always happy. Don't pretend it. It's okay. Be real sometimes. Sometimes you tell a guy, you look him in the face and you say, you know what? Your teeth, they look pretty, but I think I might stick them right up your ass because you just said something stupid. Sometimes you say that. Maybe you read it later. Maybe you're like, whatever. But bottom line is, be real for fuck's sakes.
All right. So I want to remind everybody, this podcast right here is presented by Daniel Negreanu's Masterclass.
Who I'm sure are also thrilled.
And I actually enjoyed the last couple of videos in the masterclass. One was getting rid of a house guest. There's definitely some technique to that, and also how to handle tilt when you're streaming.
picking your battles.
So I thought the video was actually funny, frankly, and it was only because like I thought I was funny in it for the most part. Like Phil Ivey sent that to me and said like you were funny in it, right? And then I saw people tweet, like how they love, it's so great that he does this. He's such a great force for good or whatever. And I'm like, all right, let me ask you this: would you feel the same way if he constantly condemns you and tries to paint you as a closeted homosexual while he has you Photoshop dildos constantly being jammed in your throat, right? Like, I don't know. I don't give a shit about that kind of stuff too much, but a lot of the holier than thou people, he's so clean. The guy put dildos in my mouth. He got pulled from YouTube. I got banned from Twitch because, hey, I get it. They're young. But to get pulled from YouTube, that takes a little extra wacko.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit. You were streaming, and we actually the last time we did a podcast, it's been a while. We had some vacations happen and stuff, but you had some connection tilt. And this time somebody said an inappropriate comment, and you went off on them a little bit for making such comment. And watching it, it was like, I don't want to know what was said. I don't think anybody really cares. It doesn't really matter. Something was inappropriate was said. But when you're going to set up and you've had haters for a long time, right? I mean, I don't think this is anything new. You've had people after you on Twitter or everywhere. They can just go after you. Is it, when you're setting up to Twitch and stream as much as you have, did you think that was going to happen, that people were going to do stuff like that?
So here's the thing, right? I'm obviously, like you said, for 20 plus years, I've had haters and stuff. And sometimes I know that like, they're just looking for a reaction. So I'm like, all right, sometimes we'll give them one. Like that was clearly tongue in cheek. Like if you actually heard, I was pissed, but like I did say at the end, I was joking, like, think about it. If I was being realistic, like the idea of taking someone's teeth, smacking them out and sticking them up their ass, like that's not a legitimate threat. Like that's not like, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going to punch you in the face, right? It's so absurd and so ridiculous. And it was obviously tongue in cheek. And I was kind of playing with the audience a little bit. And, my bad. Listen, I don't blame Twitch whatsoever. They banned me because predominantly like a lot of their, viewership is young, teenagers and stuff like that. And they have no tolerance policy. I broke their terms of service. I don't expect any special treatment whatsoever. Now, I think a permaban is a little bit extreme. Like I think maybe, okay, I won't do it again. Like at least a strike policy like they would do on YouTube. But, permaban, they don't care about poker as much as people think. It's not one of their primary things. And the good news is this, it's 2020. You can try to like, whatever you want to call it, cancel people and blah, blah, blah. But like, you just can't because you'll get your message out.
I got a question. So what you're saying is that on the anger scale from 1 to 10, you read this comment in chat because it looked, I think, to most people like you were legitimately pissed off. So if there's an anger scale from 1 to 10, and 10's the hardest done by you've ever been in your life, and 1 is you're just chilling at the beach.
So sometimes I come in with a mood, just finished golfing, was up early, fucking fucked up the last 4 holes, pulled a shank in the bunker. So you just come in with a mood, and it's being human, right? Sometimes I'll see a comment like, fuck this guy. Other times I'll just laugh, right? So in this moment, I saw this guy talk shit about my wife, my actual wife. It was like just out of line dickhead shit. And it wasn't one comment. He kept going with dumb shit, like looking for a response. So I gave him a response. Now, having said that, if I could recommend to others how to handle the situation, I wouldn't say do that. But you know what? I get so many more comments than all of everyone who's probably watching combined that are hateful and misogynist or whatever, like towards my wife, whatever. And 99% plus, I just ignore them. Every once in a while, I see one, I'm like, fuck you, dude. You're being absurd. So that's what happened here. If I could go back in time and handle it differently, I would. Having said that, would I apologize for the reaction that I had? I'll give you a absolute 0 because, that was me. That was me. That was real. I wouldn't apologize to that person because they were deserved of, see, that's drunk talk. They deserve that plus much more. Yeah, obviously that's not something that I want to do every time, but I'm not going to like say, listen, I'm sorry, I wasn't perfect. Oh, please forgive me, blah, blah, blah. Like I've always been imperfect. I'll always continue to be imperfect, and I'm totally okay with my imperfections.
So, somebody who likes to go after you a lot is obviously Doug Polk, and his team and Doug made a video mock-up of
He
that and other stuff.
He didn't do anything, right? That's the guy.
Thomas. Yeah, it's Thomas.
He just makes the video and he's like, he posts it, right? Let's
Sure.
be
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, Thomas, seriously serious, works for Doug, did up the video, making fun of Masterclass, putting a bunch of stuff in from years gone by. And I'm not sure how it got to, hey, let's play poker for rolls, or, some portion of rolls or whatever. Maybe talk us through, was it, did Doug issue a challenge or what happened there?
I don't do heads up for rolls like penis in contests. I've never done it in my entire life. I've never said to somebody, let's settle this beef by heads up for rolls. So he went off. I mean, people send me the messages. I had him blocked, but now I've unblocked him so I can see what he's saying. People were sending me this, like, oh, he wants to play heads up, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, I don't know. This lunatic, right? So obsessed for like 5+ years. Is he like, we were just listening to Stan by Eminem. So funny how random, because like he's that guy. He's like so butthurt that when he came into poker, right, and he was shitting on Jason Mercier and Dan Bilzerian and all these other people for no reason to try to make a name for himself, I didn't think that was a good approach, right? So I said so. So now I was his childhood hero, and I've got evidence in here, believe me, plenty, where that's a fact, that I was his favorite poker player, yada, yada, yada. So imagine like the guy you look up to, your favorite, you come on, you're making these videos, and he doesn't like what you're doing, right? So you think you're the best heads-up poker player in the world, and you're drunk in a bar crying tears because Ben Tollerine won't acknowledge that you're the best poker player in the world. It's just like evidence to show that like there's a clear insecurity around that, right? So when I didn't accept him for what he was doing, and I didn't dislike him at the time, but I was like, bro, you don't make a video that says Jason Mercier cheating allegations, right? When nobody's accusing Jason of cheating. You just don't do that, because when people see the headline, what do you think? When you see the title, Jason Mercier cheating allegations, you think that, Jason cheated. And when you do that, it's very irresponsible. So I spoke out against that, and that's what started it. The second part of it, and I'm going to go over this all extensively before the match we play so that people can see like the full picture. Because it wasn't simply 4 words taken out of context that he later saw as like, oh, baby, this is awesome. He said 4 words in concurrency that are more rake is better. Let's forget about the other 30 minutes and just take those 4 words and label the conversation as meaning that. And actually, frankly, he did an effective job, because many people think that I actually just said those 4 words instead by, yep, more rake's better. That's it. So it's a long history. He decided to challenge me to a heads-up match. I'm 99.9% sure he expected, actually 100% sure he expected me to say no. But I was like, you know what? Screw it. I think all the poker fans and media or whatever, they want to see this happen. It means nothing. It's silly. We're literally playing a format that he's studied his whole life. It's like the only thing he's been good at. The equivalent for me would be like to playing a ring game with him, but when I played in the high rollers, when he sat at the table, the high rollers were like very happy to have him, because he was usually the worst player at the table in a 6-max game. Heads up, very good. He's very, very good at that. He was self-proclaimed the best in the world because for 2 weeks, nobody would play him. So we're going to play his fucking game. I'll give it a shot. The stakes are reasonable for me. We have to work out a lot of the details in terms of how many hands and whatnot. But I don't know.
Okay, so this is a curious thing itself, because it is no limit hold'em against a no limit hold'em heads up specialist. You're playing him at his game, which is a decision that's curious to me on a number of levels. Number one, this is a guy you don't like. So I mean, in a sense, you're maybe first of all, I'll ask you this: do you think you're a favorite over Doug Polk in this format?
No question, I'm not a favorite. There is no possible argument you can make, okay, that I'm a favorite going into this match. This is literally the specialized format. He says I didn't play for 2 years. The last time I played Heads Up No Limit Hold'em was 10 years ago for a 6-week period of my entire life when I was playing Isildur, right?
Okay, so you're playing this game.
Really, I've played a little bit of Heads Up back in the day, Stud 8, Stud, PLO, but like I've always been a ring game player. Poker is more than just
you're a
one-on-one.
ring game player and you're a mixed game player. You play all the games and you play them all well.
Yeah, but heads up poker. So like, there's obviously a lot of skill in heads up poker, but what you miss in heads up poker is a lot of the extra variables, right? So when you're dealing with 4 or 5 players, there's a lot more complex decisions that need to be made, especially in a game like Stud 8. All right, the King 9 calls, the Jack 8 4. Heads up, it's far easier for a bot or anybody to study and create a strategy that is GTO or pretty close to GTO. So while heads up is like people call it the purest form, it's really not, because that's a rare thing that's going to happen. If we wanted to make the equivalent, right, for him playing heads up, no limit hold'em with me, we play high stakes, super high roller bowls, and crossbow, and I'll destroy him. He would never agree to that because he'd get destroyed. I would lay a price against him, but he would never do that because those are not his terms. All I've played my whole life is tournaments, right? I play some cash on the side. He would never agree. He would never step to the plate. He throws out a challenge in literally his own, it's like his only game that he's actually good at. Everything else in terms of like tournaments and, multi-table events and crossbooks, he would deny in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even bother throwing it out because he'd be like, bro, you're backing out, you're backpedaling, blah, blah, blah. I'm playing your fucking game. I'm just saying, if I offered you a crossbook in high rollers, step to me, bitch.
So 2 questions. So essentially, you're playing him at the only game that you think that he has an edge on you out of all the games in the universe that we call poker.
Poker, period. Heads up poker, period. I think he has an edge because heads up poker is something that, like, listen, to study heads up poker, stud 8 or better or whatever, the games are like really low variance in terms of like your edge. You're not going to be that much better than anybody else that plays pretty close to GTO. So I didn't even know like what game to add. I'm like, well, whatever.
I mean, I think this is my second question, but we'll dump it in it. But I think any split pot game, split pot limit game is a game that he's going to have.
But think about the size of that game compared to no limit, right?
Well, you make it bigger. I mean, if you say we're going to play 100, 200. Yeah, we're playing 100, 200 no limit with a 100 big blind cap, and then we're going to play 400, 800 stud 8 or better, Omaha 8 or better heads up. I mean, Omaha's probably better than stud because the antes are too small for stud. But you play a game like 08, you play a game, a split pot game, even stud high. Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in any way, shape, or form. Now, I have my reasons, and one of the biggest things is this, right? So what's the point of a troll who's like out of poker coming at you and like you saying yes to this, right? Well, poker is a game of like drama or whatever events like this. Like this is a big deal for most people in poker. They either are on Team Doug or they're on Team Negreanu or they're on Team Nobody and they just want to see blood, right? So it'll be a spectacle. And I thought to myself, like, all right, we do a spectacle in like no limit hold'em and stud 8 or better, right? It kind of like it's sort of takes away from the match, right? So I was like, you know what? Might as well work on my no limit hold'em skills. Heads up. It's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to have to, like, Phil Hellmuth is going to have to give me a whole new range chart. So, like, I'm going to have to learn, all the things and how to yell at people. But it's online, so that's different too. So Hellmuth and Mattisell have agreed to both coach me. But all I know is, So those are my coaches. I don't know if I'm going to get any coaches.
Is that strictly for poker strategy or also anger management?
Well, both, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna incorporate them for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But here's the thing. So you don't like Doug Polk, but you're going to give him money. You're going to cede him expectation because of the fact that you're not favorite. So if you guys are playing whatever a $200,000 freeze out and he expects. And he's going to win that 60% of the time. I mean, you're
so it's not about the money for me. It's about this. It's about like, all right, you throw your mouth out there. You want to do it. All right, cool, fine. If this has been your big end game for 5 years of like incessantly framing me in the worst possible light you can, reshaping words that I've said, putting my car at the World Series of Poker in June in a handicap spot where you're standing next to it, where that's photoshopped in. And like just literally doing that for 5 years. I'm like, all right, literally, if this is what you want to do, this will make you feel happier. Like the money, win or lose, is insequential to me, right? My goal is to make it a match, right? To give my best effort, to make it a close one. Again, like I said, we haven't decided on the structure. We haven't decided on the number of blinds or whatever the case may be. But you know what? I feel like Phil Hellmuth beat him, and he told me that he's not that good. Mike Mattisell said he's horrible. I can show you the text. Mike Mattisell said he's a horrible heads-up player. So, if I got those guys on my side, how in the world can I possibly lose, right? So that's what they say. I think that there's still the match to be played. Like, I need to learn a few things. So I'm going to ask a couple people. Sam Grizzle will be another one because I want to make sure that I have like a wide variety of insight into how to approach this match.
Make sure you get Adam Schwartz's take. Last question, and then I'll let Adam wrap this up and move on to something else. But for Doug, I mean, the fact is that, you mentioned all this stuff about how you were his childhood hero, and he to a great degree made his name off of attacking you. He's become very popular because of that. Are you not giving him a platform for exactly what he wants? And like, so I think back to like the Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather match, right? I was talking about this with Adam, right? So Conor McGregor, he's this upstart in the MMA world. He's making a big name for himself. He decides to go after the biggest name in combat sports at the moment, which is Floyd Mayweather. And he says, I'm going to fight you at your game, okay? And he ends up, he goes 10 rounds, he loses, but he puts up a valiant fight. Everybody makes a boatload of money. It's all good. Awesome. But Conor McGregor was the smaller name. I mean, he was a big name, but he wasn't Floyd Mayweather big. Excuse me, who's drunk now? Floyd Mayweather was the A-side, right? He is the A-side. So in this, you're the A-side. Doug Polk is a very popular guy, but he's clearly not your level of popularity. You're making him bigger. And if he's the guy that has pissed you off so much for all these years, why are you giving him a platform to put his name out there even more? And especially given that he's a favorite, maybe look bad by beating you in this match.
Look, great questions. I love it. Terrence is a smart guy. So for 5 years, if you actually count the number of times that I've actually said his name that's recordable, you won't count it on two hands. Like, I don't actually say his name, and a lot of people in my stream say, who the hell are you talking about? Even today, like, who's he talking about? Or they'll say, who's this? And they'll name him, right? So for a lot of years, when I was with Stars back in the day, they have a very different philosophy in terms of, image and all this kind of stuff than, the company that I'm with now, which is GG, right? So I feel a lot more freed up to be like, listen, what's the worst thing that can come my way, right? So you've literally taken 4 things, or if you will, to try to paint me as the worst human being ever. 20-year-old video where I did a Jamaican skit. My car parked in a handicap spot, which was told to me to park there by crew, staff, and whatever at the World Series of Poker. Me discussing bonuses and rake as a usage for like micro stakes games, in how you can make those games juicier for lower limit players. Framing that as like, I think we should raise the rake across the board, right? So like, there's like 4 things that is like a repeated thing for 5 years. Like, you got anything new, bro? It's the same old shit regurgitated in different forms, right? Like, they keep trying to find new things, but there's really nothing there. So at this point, I feel like within the poker community, or within like, sort of like the bullying or political attack ads that they've created, like, I really don't have much more to lose in that regard. Like, what do you got? You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, you've already played every card you possibly have, and you've played it repeatedly over and over and over. So I was like, I mean, I don't really care so much about whether, listen, if he builds a brand, it's no longer a thing. Like, I don't care. This guy, if that's his goal, right, which is to make money off of attacking other people by creating clickbait, building a name. If that's how he wants to go, he's already done that. He's already done that with me to the point where it's exhausted. So I don't feel like I'm giving him more of a platform with this. It's like everybody who sees this will be people who already know that he has been incessantly attacking me for 5 years with very little response. That's why it drives me nuts. Like, nothing pisses me off more when the media call it a back and forth feud. I'm like, holy shit, you're really not paying attention, right? 99% of comments come from him. Once in a blue moon, I make a comment, like 1 out of 100 times, but it's like, oh, it's a back and forth. How many videos did I make about this douche pork? I never made one, but I will. Don't worry. Leading up to the match, I will have him in fucking tears before the match starts. Absolutely. They're shitting this phone. This kid who can't handle, like with Ben Tollerine, why won't you say I'm the best no-limit heads-up player? Why won't you say it? This fucking kid is a Sid. And when we sit down and play, He's coming in with that as his mindset because I got a whole bunch of shit set up for that. Because we're going to fight fire with fire in this match.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. In this vein, I was thinking, Terrence, if you were going to have a grudge match with somebody in the poker world, who would you be calling out?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have. There's nobody I really dislike that much in the poker world.
Nobody? Come on, the poker world's pretty big. You got to have somebody out there that you're not very
people
fond
have been
of.
jerks to me, but I can't remember like their names or anything.
Like Phil Hellmuth, you don't remember his name?
Well, sure, but I mean, I think that's that's not a grudge match. Like Phil Hellmuth, if I was walking down the street, Phil wouldn't even know who I was. Like he would probably remember me if we were sitting next to each other at a 10K limit hold'em event again. But I mean,
what about in the streets, the high stakes limit hold'em streets? There must have been some battles, some jawing back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I battled like John D'Agostino a lot, Nick Schulman, but I mean, like there's never been any bad blood. I don't think Joe Cassidy I played a lot. I don't think I've got any bad blood against anybody I played serious poker again.
All
but
right.
if somebody wants to come at me, I will. Wait, Daniel, what is it? I'm supposed to extract their teeth and do what?
Yeah,
you got to help me with this.
Teeth. It's a very difficult process. I don't recommend it. It's very, very cumbersome, and it's not all that practical. There are other ways you can deal with these conflicts.
I've had multiple people actually try to punch my teeth out of my mouth, and none of them have succeeded, as it turns out.
It's so tough.
I've knocked out one tooth in my life. But the way I did it was it was in practice, and I accidentally headbutt the guy. I shot in for a takedown. He lowered his level 2 to defend the takedown. I got him right in the tooth and knocked his tooth out. He had to have like a root canal that day. That is, in 11 years of fighting, I've knocked out one tooth, and it was with my forehead.
And you apologized profusely, I'm sure.
It did. I paid his dentist bill. Like, nice. I felt awful.
My heads up grudge match would be Lance Bradley. Lance, let's go. Let's have it. Let's do it. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's move on from the drama and move on to something interesting happened this week. I don't know if you guys saw this, Danny. You were probably in transit when and haven't seen it yet, but PokerGo has a new format. This is called the high stakes duel format. And the very first one was the aforementioned Phil Hellmuth versus Antonio Esfandiari. Didn't disappoint. Antonio was all over Phil, trying to tilt him. And I don't know, it's hard to tell. Like, it seemed really forced. I don't know if anybody else saw it other than me, but it really kind of seemed a bit forced. The natural back and forth between Antonio and Phil in tournament play that's been on television in the past has been really good. This one, it seemed like they were just kind of doing it for fun. But Phil got upset. He wasn't happy about some stuff that Antonio said and had the dealer talking to him and such. But again, not 100% sure what was happening. Did you guys catch that?
Oh, yeah. They've played heads up before. They've played heads up. I'll tell you, I shouldn't even tell you this story, but I'll tell you just the bit of it. I might get, whatever. Antonio and Phil, they're buddies. They're actually friends, We go to dinner sometimes. We have a good time. So I guess they were playing, at a game somewhere heads up till the morning. And one of Antonio's kids came in, right? And they were playing heads up. And he goes, "Daddy, how come he only has a couple chips and you have all of them?" It's like the best random needle ever. It wasn't designed like that. Say that to Phil Hellmuth and be 5 years old.
Nice.
So perfect. Yeah, but they're buddies. They go way back. There's egos. Antonio really knows how to press his buttons. But overall, I think they probably went to dinner later. They get along. They understand. It's those two guys both. I love watching both of them play because they understand that if we're gonna put poker on TV, right? You gotta make it a show. You gotta make it fun. So let's push the envelope a little. I saw that video of what's his name, Will Jaffe, who is so funny. He did a video. He's like, "What's wrong with you fucking people going after Matiso and Negreanu? They're going to be replaced by the fucking Greenwoods. Is that good for you?" There's no diss. Well, I guess it is a diss to the Greenwoods. Not all of them. But, if poker goes to that place.
I think the Greenwoods are great. I love them. Well,
there you go. I'm saying they're I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm saying, I don't know that a lot of people tune in to go, I can't wait to watch, Sam and Luke play it out heads up. It's not like Serena and Venus. It just doesn't have that same allure.
Yeah. No, and I'm surprised, or I won't be surprised when they come after you and Doug to try and get you guys to be on that series as well. Have they approached you for to play against anybody?
Who?
On the PokerGo
No.
heads up tool.
Well, so obviously, listen, this is a hot ticket, right? This whole challenge thing, like I've heard from everybody. Like, I mean, when I say everybody, I mean everybody about, how to do it, where to do it live. Like, I think live, he'd be dead. Like, I would fucking destroy him. If we played live poker heads up, no limit hold'em, he can't fucking win. He has no chance. If he can't wear sunglasses and a scarf, he can't beat me. I don't even need to look at my cards. I'll just destroy him because he's a tell box. He's a fish. That's how I destroyed him in the super high roller bowl. Because I looked at him and I picked off so many things from him instantly, where I called him with ace high and I set him up real good. So that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen live because he'll get his ass handed to him. He knows that.
Why don't you do half live, half online? I mean, it's hard with COVID, obviously, but it's
maybe that'll think. But like live,
okay, so like when I asked about the split game, because he did offer to play a second game, right? So he did say, I'll play you half no limit hold'em, half whatever you want, and you said no, and for all the reasons we talked about earlier. But in terms of live and online, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Play half and half online. I mean, you'd have to work out some COVID stuff, but
that's the issue, right? So if it wasn't for COVID, like I would push for this thing to be online on PokerGo or whatever and be like totally streamed. But because of COVID, like what is the one key aspect of COVID? We're wearing masks, and glasses and hats. So like then it's almost like it's live, but it's not live. Like I would make stipulations where we both wear T-shirts, we both don't wear sunglasses, and we play, as they say in the old school, mano a mano. But he'd never agree to that because he would guarantee he has zero chance to win in that format. Zero. Like, I'm not saying, well, maybe anything can happen. Look, we'll give him 1% chance. But I'm not going to lay 99-1 because I learned from two fuckers. But bottom line is he would never agree to play me live with no mask and no fucking, hiding. You can hide behind the screen. I've agreed to do that. There's zero chance that he would play me live in a format without feeling, because he has anxiety already. Imagine me looking him down, picking him apart, hand after hand.
Why no webcams? You guys could play live with webcams online with webcams. Not the same.
There's more to it when you handle chips and cards.
I agree.
Yeah,
but it's something. Right?
But it would be kind of nah. I mean, it's fine. We'll probably do that, anyway, maybe. But live, I couldn't imagine he would agree to that. It would be like for a guy like him who doesn't have a job, who I don't know, maybe crypto goes away. He's, doesn't have like any income outside of his YouTube videos and thing that he's not doing anymore. Like it's dangerous for him unless he gets staked. And I can't imagine a lot of smart people will want to stake him playing live, considering he's one of the biggest tell boxes we have in poker at the high stakes. Like they used to laugh at him. Like I'm not joking. They would laugh at him when he would leave. This fucking guy has no shot. Because the poker is more than just the fundamentals, which online is number one point of. But like when you add the live component, which is what poker's always been,
So if I'm remembering this right, it's 200, 400, and it's up to 25,000 hands. Is there?
I said I was flexible. We haven't decided between 10 and 25. So it could be 10, could be 25. I'll agree to at least 10, maybe 25. We have to work out the details. We haven't done that yet.
All right. And two tables at once?
Yeah, I mean, first he said 4, which is like, okay, great. Like what else you want me to do? Like, whip it out so you can, like show my whole cards the whole time. Like, I mean, so 2, he said, to his credit, he said he's willing to play just 2 tables, which I think is manageable. It's a reasonable amount of tables.
All right. We will look forward to finding out some more details as they come down. We haven't done a show in a while. There's been a whole bunch of World Series of Poker winners. Unfortunately, the 2 hosts that are playing them haven't been amongst it. But Daniel, you've cashed a whole ton of times. We'll get to that in a second.
2 hosts and 1 producer.
Oh, and our producer has been playing too. Yeah, sorry, 3. Everybody but me has been playing. First, T, what's yours? How's it gone before we get to the other guys?
I mean, I played 3 events. I bricked nothing. I bricked everything. I did talk myself into playing the 10K short deck. I remember we talked about that before. Yeah. So I practiced my butt off. I really just did study hard, played a lot of cash, and I was really happy around performance. I think I finished like 6 out of the money, something like that. So it was a really heartbreaking one. So I made a good run. I think I played really well, and I was really happy. I almost didn't get money, and Daniel came to the rescue at the last minute, managed to send me 10K out of his GG account, and I sent him money. I sent him Bitcoin for it because wasn't able to get my limits up in time. So anybody listening to this who happens to want to play a 10K event, don't wait till the day before to send in your documents to get your limit raised to 10K. But so I played 10K short deck, and I went deep on only one bullet, which I was really happy about because I only had one bullet in my account. But ultimately did not cash. That would have been really nice to have a cash in the first 10K. And then I played the 1K short deck, and I went bam, bam, bam out of that. I ran really bad in that one. I saw Daniel was close to the money in the 1K short deck, which surprised me. And the reason that one surprised me because the 1K short deck started at 5 a.m. And I did not expect you. You are taking the grind seriously. If you are up at, I guess it's 6 a.m. in Mexico, but still rough.
Yeah, no, I got in at 7 a.m. and there's like one rebuy available. I think I did use it. I was really tilted actually because I've played a decent amount, not a lot of short deck, but enough to feel comfortable. And I jammed for like 30 bigs with ace queen in hijack, and the button called me with queen jack off, which for you, Terrence, short deck, like queen jack off's an okay hand.
But
right?
It's very dominated. It's essentially dominated by everything that would shove because you never shove like pocket eights there. Like in regular no limit, yeah, exactly. In regular no limit, like pocket eights is a really strong hand, but it's really quite terrible in short deck. I mean, no hand is really super, super bad in short deck because they can all outdraw each other. But like eights is kind of at the 8, 7, 6s are kind of your worst hands. So like you can't ever kind of be flipping when you have you can be flipping against like ace 10 suited or something.
Nines or lower, I'm limp folding.
Yeah. All
those hands. Like 10s, I'm going to actually probably limp, and jacks I may shove. But other than that.
You may shove because you were close to the bubble, so you probably just want to pick up the antes, so you probably would shove a little more than you would limp. But yeah, I don't know your style there. But yeah, queen jack's a bad call.
River, I had ace, queen, king, whatever. And I hit jack on the river. But that's the crazy thing about that game is like when you play short deck, you have to really sort of change your perception of a bad beat because there's just fewer cards. So it's way more likely for them to catch something than,
So Danny, you've cashed a whole bunch of times, right? You're right up there in the top. I think it's you and Ryan LaPlante, I believe, last time I looked.
I cashed 15 times out of 31 in the WSOP.com version. And I've been here and I cashed. The Million Maker really was frustrating for me. My God. Like, I got down. There's 6,500 entries. I jumped into one of the heats. I got in. And now I'm down to 39 players. And at that point, the average stack is only like 20, 25 bigs. So I'm sitting there with 10, which is actually decent. Goes raise, all in. I call with queens. The guy has eights. The other player folds. And flops good, turns good. And he hits an 8 on the river. It was so tilting because it's like such a huge spot. Like it's just like a expose in how in a lot of cases those big field events and tournaments, there's so much variance in those key spots. And I've always known this, of course. As players have gotten tougher, it's even more important to get lucky late. Because like I get there. Like if I've been down to the top 40 in 1,000+ player fields like an inordinate amount of time in the last month and a half. And then when I get there, I've been just losing a lot of big pair versus small pair, confrontations, and they are frustrating. Like they're more frustrating for my wife because she's like, "Girl, how does it keep happening?" But the bottom line is, that if you keep getting there with average-ish stack or within the ballpark, that eventually, you're gonna hit the big one. Unfortunately for me, this was a real big one. The Million Maker paid 1.5 for first. I came 39th for a grand total of 12,000.
I noticed they're pretty shallow. A lot of these, you get to the final table, the chip leader is super shallow. The middle guys have like 10 big blinds. Is that something that you think GG needs to look at as far as stack depth?
So obviously the WSOP events was like the lead-in, right? And all the events have different structures. They did in the WSOP and they will on GG. There is going to be some that are turbo-ish that are going to have some play in certain spots and not as much otherwise. There's a lot of different arguments you can make. I think for World Series of Poker events specifically, you should focus on skill when it matters most. In your average tournament, like what is best for the, poker ecology isn't necessarily what is beneficial to the most skillful players, right? So I think maybe like that was their tendency with this, with the tournament format that they've had for a long time, which is sort of level the playing field a little bit and give the average Joe a chance to win where they're not like, playing super, super deep against a bunch of wizards in the end game. I think World Series of Poker, we should definitely have like really solid structures. I haven't taken a look deeper into what the 25K or 5K and whatnot looks like, but I've always liked structures that start kind of quick, where you're playing pretty meaningful play early, and then, when it's down to 2-3 tables and beyond, it slows down.
Yeah, somebody, I can't remember who it was, put out a tweet it was the day of the turbo deep stack on WSOP.com, and they were like, who likes a turbo deep stack? Like, this is just such an oxymoron. But I mean, a lot of people responded, hey, this is actually like a really great spot for recreational players. They want to start with a lot of chips early. They want to be able to play hands and see flops and do stuff and feel like they got the poker tournament experience. But when it's late, like, they don't want to be outplayed, like Daniel's saying, by a bunch of wizards. And when you're 80 big blinds deep really late in a tournament, it feels awful when you're being outplayed. Like, it's just, you're in these spots where you bet and the guy just shoves 3x pot on you because he knows that you can't have the nuts. Like, those are just awful feelings. And there is an argument. I would with Daniel most of the way. Like, I've always liked structures that start fast and end slowly when it really counts. Because in theory, like, this is when you're playing for big money, you want there to be more play possible. But there is an argument to be made that it does help the casual players, the weaker players, when it's like 20 big blinds deep late. Because hey, even a fish like me, I can hang with the best in the world if it's 20 big blinds deep. It's how bad could I actually play 20 big blinds deep?
Right. And honestly, if you think about it, it's actually good for pros as well. It is more gambly for pros because pros have to play for big stakes and like really fluctuating, scenarios. But the bottom line is they will be in that spot far more often than the bad player, right? So like, if you're a good player, you're going to shoot dice and you're going to play craps way more often than the bad player who's busted well before that. So there's something to be said about just being there and understanding that once you get there, because I actually think in tournament poker, the biggest trend difference in the last 4 years is the last 3 tables, especially because of reentry and rebuy and whatever else. But like, when I played, let's say the 2004 through 2006 era, you had down to 3 tables, there was a lot of weak players still. And at the final tables, there were plenty of weak players. As you introduce reentry and slower structures, high binds or whatever, you just don't see it. So what ends up happening is that guy who got lucky to get down to 3 tables is drawing pretty close to dead to make it much further, So again, with what Terrence said, by speeding up the structure late, it gives them a little bit better of a chance to have some big scores. And to keep the game going, like the ecosystem of like, especially on the high roller scene, you need some of the businessmen or casual players. They need to not only cash sometimes, they need to win sometimes. And if you set the structures up in such a way where it's like, all right, this is a 10-day event, 12 hours a day, blinds go up every 2 hours, great for pros, but not really great for pros, because guess what? The amateurs are never going to cash, and they're never going to win.
And they're never going to play.
Yeah. So you got to have a little bit of a balance there. But like I said at the top, I think for World Series of Poker events, the predominant factor should be skill, because the brand is so prestigious.
Well, it'll be interesting to see when you mentioned it earlier with the big the high rollers, the 25K and that, and see if the structure is any different. All right, so moving on. There's a ton, like I said, a ton of people have won bracelets. Just quickly, Juha Helpy, blast from the past, old school finish, I believe, pro. What
do you mean he won back-to-back bracelet? Like he won 10. I only know this because it was 10K limit hold'em. He just won 10K limit hold'em at the last World Series. So,
no, but I'm saying he's old school. Like he's been around from the beginning, right? Like I used to battle.
I thought you were saying he disappeared.
No. Okay. Sorry. Tony Dunst from the WPT, of course, wins his second bracelet. Nick Binger won. Kristen Bicknell, good Canadian girl, takes her third bracelet down. Narain Tamaro wins the main event, quote unquote, on WSOP.com, the 1K, for how much did he win it for? 300K. I was curious to see the number of entries for that one. So it ended up being 1455 uniques with 671 rebuys. So pretty good sized pool for the main events at the WSOP.com. And then it switched over to GG, of course. Well, it did switch over a little bit earlier, but that wrapped up the July series, so to speak, at WSOP.com. GG got off to a tough start from what I read. Again, I missed some of it. There was some DDoS attacks. It seemed like the server was overloaded. Daniel, did you have any discussions with GG on what happened there?
Yeah, it was a perfect storm of like, oh my God, like, what like you said, the DDoS attack, we had the server overload, as you mentioned, we had like a global outage on a network that also hosts Fortnite and plenty of others. Like 10% of the internet essentially went out leading up to it. So the good news is, we had that really like great, it's so funny because I tweeted that morning, I'm like, what a great start we're off to. We just broke the World Series record. And then I'm on the golf course and I hear a whole bunch of people saying like, yeah, nice tweet, asshole. The whole thing crashed. I'm like, I did not know. I'm like, I tweeted that before that happened. So obviously I'm not a tech guy. I don't have anything to do with the servers and stuff, but I, as soon as I got back from the golf course, I mentioned this in my vlog that I shot, sort of got down to the bottom of it. And like, to their credit, GG, like all hands on deck. Like the number one focus going forward was stabilizing the server. And since that first day, we've been stable, like played the Sunday yesterday. We've had 7 bracelet events, if you will, or something like that. 7 huge events in one day on the Sunday previous, and things have been going smoothly since. But like, and again, this isn't to shift blame because, it's not a good thing, but like this literally is an aspect of internet poker or internet anything. It happens to literally every big site. Our competitors, it's happened to them, and I don't see that as, I'm not gleeful. Like, yes, they had a crash. It's just unfortunate because it's bad for the whole industry when it happens, but it's an unfortunate part of the internet. So the question is, how does the company handle going forward when that happens, right? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody occasionally. And I know that the team was like dedicated to like, maybe, it takes a little bit longer too, because you have a lot of people affected and you want to handle those cases on an individual basis. So it takes a bit of time, and that's where patience is required on the customer. But I don't blame people. Like you saw me freak out when I lost my connection for 7 minutes, and I get it. It pisses me off. I can't stand it. I wish we could just, 2020, like never have internet issues ever again. And I'm in Mexico in front of my big stream screen where I'm hoping everything goes well for the next month, knocking on wood, literally. But yeah, we started off on the first day, but with an issue. But since then, knock on wood, like I said, people are enjoying the software. I get so many tweets about people saying, this is pretty awesome. I get to use your face and say like, ha 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 ha. Like that's literally an avatar you can use.
Terrence, I know you've been on the inside of poker sites when they do have, connection issues, DDoS attacks and stuff. And I'm sure you got some thoughts on, and Daniel mentioned it, how the poker site handles it and how GG handled it.
Yeah, it's the absolute worst thing that can happen to a poker site. Short of a cheating scandal or something crazy like that, it's really awful. I worked for PokerStars when Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. So I watched a site go from 6,000 players to 60,000 players, like literally overnight. And so it can cause major problems. Most of the things, I'm not going to get into the technical side of it, but a lot of them they always seem to revolve around multi-table tournaments. Most of the major crashes. And one of the reasons is because when you have cash games, you don't suddenly just seat 6,000 players, right? That doesn't happen. Cash games, players come in, they sit down, they leave, the new players come in and it repeats over and over again. When you have a tournament, you've got 11,000 players or something like that. They all have to be sit down. They all have to be assigned to seats. Oh, damn, another 1,000 players just entered. We got to find new seats for them. That means we got to start new tables, and we got to break old tables so that there's a random redraw for the new table. Right, because we don't want people to sort of game the seating algorithm. So there's all these tables breaking and opening over and over again. You don't see this when you have a live tournament, right? When they're a live tournament, you just get 100 people, you just throw them on 11 new tables. It's no big deal. But online, for obvious reasons, you can't have that. So most of the crashes have to do with things like seating algorithm, breaking tables, starting them over and over again. This is why when you look in the lobby of GG or of Party or of Stars or whatever, you see weird things like, so I'm looking at the GG schedule because I happen to have the lobby up right now. You got a tournament that starts at 3 o'clock. Then you got a tournament that starts at 3:02. You've got two tournaments that start at 7 o'clock, one that starts at 7:01, and then a satellite that starts at 7:01, and another satellite that starts at 7:02. This is to give the server time to catch up. I don't know if they did this on that Sunday, the 16th, but Daniel mentioned it, whatever kind of went wrong, they seem to have made some repairs to it, which is really good because it was I played that day. It was definitely a very frustrating experience. A lot of people got blinded out, which is really bad. A lot of people got suspended and couldn't play next week. I think they did a pretty good job, right? I think they did what they needed to do to not get people overly angry at them. So I know that they issued a lot of refunds in I think it was the opener. I think that was the $100 buy-in opener. They had to move the COVID relief tournament, the 1,100, to next week. Then they doubled the charity portion of the prize pool. And so I thought that was a really clever like PR thing, because it makes you look like an asshole if you complain about the COVID relief tournament, because they took the $111 from every player, and then they added another $111. So they ended up donating a whole bunch of money for COVID relief. So definitely a smart PR play for them. They handled it well. I mean, I won't give them an A+ on it, but B+ score, and the fact that nothing bad's happened since then is a feather in the cap to the technical team, because it's really hard to scale up that quickly. I mean, a lot of people say, like, how could you not have seen this coming? You guys hosted the World Series of Poker, and it's a pandemic, and everybody's stuck at home, and they all want to play online poker. Of course, a zillions of people are going to play, and it's like, yeah. And I'll bet the IT team at GG Poker told them, no problem. We can handle 500,000 players. If you throw 500,000 players at it, no problem. We'll be able to handle it. And in theory, that might have been right. In the sort of simulations that they do behind the scenes and the test runs, it worked. But for whatever reason, things are always different in the real world. And when you get hundreds of thousands of connections from all over the world, and Daniel mentioned too, operating on servers that are also popular, and you throw in the possibility of DDoS attacks, the reality is always different from what it is in the simulation. So, these things are going to happen, and they did pretty good on it, and hopefully nothing bad happens the rest of the way. It seems like they got those kinks out of the way. They've had some big Sundays since then. I think that was 2 Sundays ago. So, hopefully they've got it all under control now.
Yeah, and the field sizes have been pretty big. Like, that was one of the things we were going to look at is what's the field size in the GG tournaments going to be like versus the WSOP.com. Obviously, the GG Poker client available to everybody outside of the U.S. And by the way, I've been seeing some tweets about GG taking VPNing very seriously. They've somebody. All
right. Well, wait. Before you get there, I want to mention one thing because it's really funny. In the Millie Maker, I was at the table with Isaac Haxon and Daniel Dvoras for like a lot of it near the end. And Daniel Dvoras, if you haven't seen it on my Twitter, if you can find it, his avatar, okay, of him playing is me with a laptop going like this. That's his avatar. Me like mid-rage, neck pulsing, the whole deal. So that's clearly lucky because he's the chip leader of the Millie Maker, which is going to resume on Saturday, and he's in really good shape to win $1.5 million. In addition to that, I have a $100K bet against him on Bracelet, so I'll be sweating that one closely.
How have the rest of the sweats been? Have there been any deep ones other than that?
Frankie Finaro came in second in one of them, but outside of that, it's really funny because Yuri, I forget his last name, Yuri, he won his second bracelet here on GG Poker recently, a couple days ago. And I do have a $100K bet with him. But, of course, since I was in Las Vegas, the GG portion of the bet doesn't start until I was actually here on August 2nd. So the bracelet that he won doesn't count, which is only fair. I mean, it would be absurd for me to agree to playing, like, yeah, that counts, and I can't be there.
No, for sure.
I did want to ask you one more thing about the. I had this on the list to ask you, but we didn't end up doing a show last week. But your decision to leave to Mexico at the very, very end of the World Series USA, I will call it. The field sizes obviously were smaller, so you have a better chance of picking up a bracelet in the World Series based on the field sizes. But the buy-ins are higher on GG, and so. And presumably the fields are softer. So actually, when you look at the field sizes, because GG was running a lot of high buy-in events, I think those are bracelet opportunities. I talked about the 10K short deck. 10K short deck, I can't remember how many people I got, but it was like 130, something like that. Those would have been big bracelet opportunities. I was surprised that you didn't at least consider leaving Nevada a little bit early to try to get on like 5K PLO. Adam mentioned that Help You won. That couldn't have been a huge field because it was a 5K buy-in event. So they had all these big buy-in events where you were probably pretty live for bracelet equity. Did you just think it was still higher in Nevada, or did you just want to stay because it was comfortable? What was that thought about?
Really great questions, and you literally mentioned the two events that were not on the initial schedule that I saw. One of the things that I was under the impression of was that, during the WSOP portion, we didn't want to have a lot of big stuff to sort of like force people from the US to leave. So we're trying to like show respect to the WSOP by not like, having big ones. But then the schedule was a little light, and so later what was added was the 10K short deck and the PLO to the front side of it. I'd already made my plans, and in addition to that, the biggest thing for me was the dogs. Like being away for 7 weeks was a lot. 5 weeks I felt like I could handle, but 7 weeks was a little much. And again, I was under the impression that the early stuff on GG would be small, buy-in like big events, but to balance the schedule after I'd made my plans, the 5K PLO and the 10K short deck were added. Because you're absolutely right. Like those are really good opportunities to win bracelets. And so, yeah, once I made the decision and, we got the house and everything, like I wasn't going to make a last minute change and leave for 7 weeks.
All right. Well, big schedule this week for everybody. Roscoe, you playing any? Have you played any GG events?
I bubbled the satellite of the 500 on Sunday. I played a bunch of other stuff, but the only bracelet event that I'm going to play is probably 500 and under. So I played the only real blaze was the last one, the one that had the technical issues. Which
you can sell some action. I think, Roscoe, if you set up on GG.
Oh, that's true.
Tell everybody your screen name. Tell everybody your screen name so they can buy
yeah, we got enough people out there.
Is sitting out. It looks exactly like it says.
Sitting out. That's a good one.
Yeah. But I bought a piece of Daniel, which was a fun sweat yesterday.
You want a bunch, bro.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody out there?
Subscribed. I don't want to give away everybody. I'll give them away to our listeners, but I have notifications on now for Daniel's tweets, his Instagram stories, everything you do online, Daniel. I'm tracking.
You just need to grind that like $10 of equity at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the listeners understand what the deal is like I'm going to on social media let you know, and I'll give you 30 minutes ish when I'm going to sell pieces on GG, and I'm doing them at no markup. Ross was quick with the finger, and he got himself 1%. And I think that turned like $38.
$150.
Nice. Not so bad, right? You almost won 14K. Just needed 38 players to go broke before me. That's all.
That would have been good. So everybody out there who wants to take a slightly EV, negative EV, positive EV, punt on Roscoe. I'm not sure. I'm speculating.
I thought you meant Daniel. Yeah, no.
Are you posting you're going to sell pieces?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
That's awesome. All right. I'll promote it. When you do, I'll promote it.
Okay.
There. You can play the 10Ks now, Roscoe.
So the way that it works, so the way that it works is this. If you want to sell pieces on GG Poker, right?
Yeah.
You got to buy into the event first, okay? Then list your price points and all the details or whatever like that before the event starts, right? If you withdraw before the event starts, there's no action. Everybody's funded or whatever. So the key is if you want to play a 2K buy-in, you need to have 2K in your account, right? Yeah. And if you want to sell half, and because you only really want to risk 1,000, you can do that. And if you don't get the full 1,000, you can just unregister from the tournament. So
you have to start on time. So no late reg for stakers then. Right. Or staking.
The only one thing that's really cool that GG introduced, which we discussed yesterday, was we offer now for those phase tournaments where there's like a whole bunch of day ones, like you can actually buy pieces of people on day 2 based on their stack. So you could, like, if the chip leader decides to sell, obviously that's going to be worth a lot. And the way that works, it's called an ASMU. Essentially, there's basically, like, if you start with 50K in chips as the starting stack, and you end day 1 with 100K in chips, that means your stack value is like, 100K divided by 50K, which is a 2.0. So that's what you'll be charged. If somebody chooses to, post an additional markup on that, then, you pay that as well. But you get to choose as a consumer based on stack sizes and all those other things. Typically on a day 2, it's a very short window, about 1.5 to 2 hours typically, where they're going to be in the money. So, it's definitely worth perusing the day 2 phase tournaments and see what's available.
Mm-hmm. All right, Roscoe, you're set up. You just got to get some money in your account. And
that's true.
And then if only you knew a guy who had money in GG Poker.
I know.
Maybe
I'll put my feelers out there.
All right. A couple of one very tragic story and one concerning story before we get to some tweets and and mail. 33-year-old poker player Susie Zhao, who's known as Susie Q, was found dead in Michigan. Terrible circumstances. And they have arrested a 60-year-old man. There's no details yet. Susie seemed to be known throughout the poker world and had a lot of friends, judging by the sort of the Twitter reaction. Very, very tragic. And I sure hope they got the right guy there. And then a concerning story, and we mentioned it a couple of shows ago. Somebody asked what Brad Booth was doing these days. And I was fairly good friends with Brad and haven't heard from him for probably 4 or 5 years. I think he's been grinding. Last I heard, he was grinding in Vegas. I think he might have been up in Reno. And his roommate has filed a missing persons report in Reno. So we're all pretty concerned. He hasn't been seen for 2 or 3 weeks when he said he was going to be gone for a day or two. And all his stuff, I guess, is still at the apartment. So if you're out there, Brad, and just let us know that you're okay. And if anybody else knows anything about Brad, it would be great if somebody could just reach out to some of his friends and mention that Brad's okay. I hope we can put that to bed.
And nothing else, you threw out a tweet out there to retweet the missing persons report. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this, just throw a tweet on Adam's retweet. You never know who it might see.
Yeah.
Might be somebody outside the poker world. So it always could help. You never know. But yeah, it's obviously super concerning because I think he's been missing for 3 weeks now, and the report was just filed a couple days ago, and it's always really concerning when somebody's gone for sort of that period of time. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we certainly hope. Brad's had his problems for sure, but we certainly all hope that he's doing okay.
Totally agreed. All right, let's get on to some tweets. Roscoe.
You're going surfing on the internet.
Devices down, faces up. A question for the podcast. What was the live game, either cash or MTT, that was really juicy when you guys first started out grinding? The game that really put your bankroll in a position to play poker full time? Thanks. Well, Daniel can go last because this is probably the person he's asking. So Terrence, why don't you go?
Okay. So I played 10-20 limit hold'em with you at the Holiday Inn, which was pretty juicy. We had a lot of 6-way limped pots, which you won't see in a limit hold'em game these days. When I first turned pro, though, it was probably the $100 sit and goes on Party Poker. The no limit sit and goes, the format. Third place, three pay out of 10 people. You just kind of finish top 3. There's fun bubble. I was winning, making like a 40% ROI on those, and pros today they'll say I was making that number up. I was not making that number up. It was, you could return a 40% ROI on a $100 or $200 sit and go. Though. So that's what was really juicy when I started grinding. But that wasn't really what put my bankroll into a full-time poker position. What really put my bankroll in a full-time poker position was this thing called a job, and it's a thing that people sometimes do when they're not good at poker. But I had a pretty good job with PokerStars. It was a passion. It was a thing that I loved. I was 22 years old, and then when I was 22, I was like, well, I got some money, I got some life experience. I've been working in a foreign country, but fuck it, poker's really good. I just want to play poker for a living. And all my friends were playing poker for a living. The guys who I didn't even think were very good at poker were playing poker for a living. So I was like, well, if they can do it, I can probably do it too. And luckily it worked out. But it is really helpful to come from a job first to actually build a bankroll, because it's funny, when you have a job, you can actually save and not just gamble your winnings, and you can still make money playing poker on the side. But the $100 and $200 sit and goes on Party Poker were what really convinced me that I should drop the job and say, Isai, you can kiss my ass on the way. No, I didn't say that. Isai was great. He was the best.
You know what? It's funny because when you mentioned that, I totally remember that you and I and probably 10, 12 other guys used to play in a home game. Shout out Murray Logan. We used to have it at Murray's house. North Shore Mike, Murray, Ian, it was PokerStar Steve. Steve was there occasionally. But I remember the day where you came and said, "Yeah, no, I got a job." And we're like, "What? What are you talking about? You got a job?" And you're going, "Yeah, I'm going to go work for PokerStars." And we were all playing on PokerStars at the time, or it was just starting up. I remember it was sort of the place that we were getting excited about, and you and Thomas, our buddy Thomas, went down and never looked back. That was awesome. I remember that. Roscoe, what's the juiciest game when you were coming up?
My options are kind of limited, but it's got to be just Edgewater. The local casino.
The local casino, yeah.
Drunk Friday nights. People just
gambling.
Yeah.
Good times. So Terrence mentioned the 10-20 game that you and I played in. Greg Mueller, John Kim, some people remember, and some others were also in that game. But the game before that was a 20-40 limit hold'em that I remember Daniel came out for. He spent a week in Vancouver playing. It might have been the biggest limit hold'em game in Canada at the time. I think it was a pretty crazy game. Just mountains and mountains of chips. But I remember you stuck your nose in there, Daniel. But the big one for me was Party Poker. When Party launched, I became a prop there right at the beginning. And those 15-30 limit holding games were the freest money you've ever played, and then 30-60 as well. All right,
You're an affiliate too with Party too, right? You made money.
I was an affiliate, yeah.
Yeah, so that was probably worth even more than, or at least as much as playing really juicy games.
For sure. Daniel, up and coming games in Toronto, the charity games, right?
Yeah, for sure. The Vancouver trip, I'll be honest with you, I didn't come for the poker. There was a girl in Toronto that I knew from Toronto, and she lived in Edmonton, and she wanted to meet up in Vancouver. So I spent a week. I just wanted to go see her. So I was like, all right, well, I'll find that game and do that too. And I remember, well, specifically about Vancouver, it was gray every day.
Yeah. And
then it had for 1 week, by day 6 or 7, it had a physical effect on me, in a negative way, not a good thing. The gray, the no sun, whatever. It was really, really weird. But I definitely played in that. But as far as me growing up, for me, the bread and butter was Fun Time Games in Toronto. Howard Goldfarb, who came second to Dan Harrington,
right,
in the 1993 or 94 World Series now, I think it was. He wasn't really part of that game. He's part of the private games. But really, we grew up with a bunch of guys. Pat Peasant was one of them, who many of you guys know. Then there was Tyson, Sam Siharath, Evan. We called him Old Man with Earrings. I wrote a column about him. He was an old guy with earrings. It was a really good crew. So in Toronto, we had, and I wrote a blog about this that related to rake. Oh boy. So we played at Fun Time, which had a session fee, which was each player paid $5 every half hour, period. No rake, right? So it was $10 an hour to play. Across the street and everywhere else, they were taking $10 a hand, right? So you can imagine, they're taking $10 a hand. It requires you to play tighter. The games are not as good. You're paying 2-3 times more, in rake. I remember, tracking my stats for about 2 years, playing in both games when I had off days, and they were pretty close to identical. Because obviously, I was a favorite over the games I was playing in because I was good, but the percentage of bad players was very small. When I went over to Ace Casino or wherever else, it was just, they were so bad. It was 8-9 way action every flop. So despite the fact that we were playing so much more rake, the game was actually better. Wow. The game was actually better. So the actual play of the game, the intimidation factor for the recreational players was better. Now, obviously, more money comes off the table every hour, but because the games were still so full of recreational players, your win rate, frankly, was, like I said, there was actually a couple guys, one guy named Serge, who stopped playing in the short, he stopped playing in the rake game that was, the session fee, $10 an hour, and started playing in the other game. And so did Tyson as well. Because they found one game, the game with the pros was much tougher to make money in, and they can play in the other game, play a really nitty style, and make even more money. So that was my introduction at a very young age, as a teenager, to how rake affects the ecosystem of a game, and it directly does. And then when I went to Las Vegas, I noticed the 1-5 stud, the rake was ridiculously big. 20-40 hold'em, it had the same kind of rake. I was like, "What? This is crazy." Then I understood what they were doing. They're like, "This is 1-5. They want recreational players. They want people to come and have fun. They don't want pros, milking these people. So they want to leave them alone." One way to do that, if you hike the rake up, pros can't, necessarily look at it as a profitable situation. Lets them play by themselves. And then the people that are trying to play professionally at higher stakes, they get a much more reasonable rake, which is essentially what the fuck I've been saying for 4 years. They got twisted into bullshit.
So what you're saying is, in all instances in poker, an increased rake is better.
No matter what. So if me and you played heads up, Adam, 1 in 200, if $500 rake every hand is better than $400. Now, they're going to take that clip, right? put that together and go, boom, look, see? More evidence.
Terrence, you got some tweets?
Oh yeah, this was an old one, but Daniel tweeted about when you flush the toilet, do you do it with the lid open or do you shut the lid first and flush with the toilet bowl being covered? So basically, do you put the lid down all the way on the toilet before you flush? I'll give the results in a moment, but let's rattle them off quickly. Ross, what do you do?
Always put it down, man.
Always put it down.
I'm afraid of the particles.
The particle spray. That's
put your mask on.
That gets mentioned in the comments. I'll say I try to do it all the time, but my rate is definitely below 100%. So I probably am category 1. Adam?
I'm a courtesy flush guy. I'm flushing mid visit.
Wait, what?
No, we're talking about keeping the lid closed after when
do you put the lid all the way down and then flush the toilet, or do you just like?
No, he's saying he flushes while
Surely not.
No, I flush before I get off.
You flush before you get off. Oh, okay. Oh, you're talking about number 2. You're talking about number 2, but
Yes.
let's just say it's a number 1.
Oh, no, I don't close the lid on that.
You don't close the lid. So 70.
No, but when we're talking about number 1, there's been instances with the pee bottle that I've thought it was apple juice. So some little.
So you're not the guy we should go on for advice.
A billionth of a particle in the air isn't bothering me with that.
All right. So before we get to Daniel, so 78.5% of people said I just flush, man. 21.5% of people are like Ross. They always shut the lid first. Daniel, you had a reason for posting this, I'm sure, and I'm sure people also want to know what happens in the Negreanu Leatherman household.
So while I was playing the WSOP events, I was playing poker and I wanted to watch something that I sort of would half watch. And I happened upon a YouTube channel called The Bright Side. And The Bright Side comes up with all these little, funky tricks about life, like 7 ways you're not going to the bathroom properly or whatever. And then this one sort of hurt. It was like, wow, I never thought of that. Like, apparently what they say is, especially if you're in a shared bathroom, right? Like you do your business. If you close the lid before you flush, it keeps the particles from flying up in the air and going everywhere, right? But I would imagine, I thought of myself, like, what if you live alone, right? It's just your own shit anyway. Like, it's your own particles. So, is that a problem? Like, I don't know. Is that actually, should you disinfect germs that are your own? Or is that, something?
So here's the thing that got me. So the thing that convinced me that you should be a lid closer is that a lot of those particles will actually end up on your toothbrush. Yeah. And so there's a guy named Dave Asprey, and he always recommends putting your toothbrush in a drawer. So if you've got a medicine cabinet or something, you put your toothbrush behind there, because when somebody flushes the toilet, whether it's you or somebody else, it all gets sprayed up in the air. Your toothbrush kind of acts like a little sponge for little shit particles. Oh. And so now you're brushing your teeth with a little bit of your own shit, which even though it's your own shit, you probably still don't want. So Adam,
a lot of bathrooms are set up now. Like in our house, there's a bathroom that's well away from the rest of the bathroom. It's not like the toilet's here and the sink's here. Like the toilet has a wall and it's enclosed, but I wonder
but it's like COVID, right? Like it can kind of travel some distance, especially like a toilet. It's a powerful flush. And you feel that whoosh, you feel that little spray on your legs when you flush the toilet. That's little particles kind of getting in.
The worst is going to a urinal with flip-flops on. That's the worst.
So I actually watched that video and I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to fucking close the lid every time now. And I did that for about 4 days. And it's just come on, bro. It seems like a lot.
How good do I run that I do have my toothbrush in a drawer and didn't even realize that I was running good. That's fantastic.
That's got to feel good.
I've recently bought a cover. I have an electric toothbrush. It sits on a stand.
There you go.
The little plastic thing. Electric toothbrushes are the nuts. The dentist is all up on me on getting toothbrushes. Yeah. All right, Galen Hall tweeted, Siri, please describe what poker players are like in no more than 2 tweets. And he gives these 2 example tweets, one by Alex Weiss, one by Sean Deeb, 2 very similar people, as you know, in the poker world. Alex Weiss, responding to a bunch of people about something, writes, the game is very well studied, brackets, LUPI, and for n greater than or equal than 3 players, symmetric Nash involves picking every number a non-zero amount of the time. This occurs even if the number of different numbers is greater than n. For example, you can pick any negative number 2. You would pick minus 1 million, some non-zero percentage. Crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy. The tweet from Sean Deeb says, probably a dumb question, but in the house I'm grinding in way too hot. If I was to run a bath of cold water, would it could down the upstairs? I assume he means
That sounds like grammar from Sean Deeb.
I used to love
Right
that.
on point.
And the thing is, like, if you take like the amount of money that has been won by poker by these two individuals, I mean, Alex Weiss, very good poker player, but Sean Deeb is like one of the most successful players of this generation. Like, it goes to show there's a lot of different kinds of smarts in poker. Like Alex Weiss is definitely mathematically extremely smart. Sean Deeb is not so much. But like, you know, Sean Deeb is a very successful poker player. Alex Weiss, very successful poker player. There's still, even in 2020, very different paths to success as a professional poker player. And I think that's the theme. That's the theme we'll take away from Galen Hall's tweet.
All right. Moving on. Next one. Is this Ross? Did you put this one there?
Oh yeah, I just threw these last ones in. I've been enjoying your angry hockey tweets lately.
Oh, I was so mad yesterday. I was furious.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to hear the backstory, and I'm sure Daniel has a take as well.
Okay, so hockey started. The playoffs are back. We actually didn't touch on that. I don't know how 4 Canadians can have a podcast and not touch on the fact that hockey's back. But look, if you ask me what my least favorite professional sports team is, it's the Calgary Flames, and it's not close. I fucking hate the Flames. I have since I was a boy. I've learned it's a rivalry that's awesome in hockey. Coincidentally enough, one of my favorite players of all time in the NHL is Jerome McGinley, but I could separate the fact that he was a.
What about Theo Fleury?
Love Theo Fleury, absolutely. But I still hate the fucking Calgary Flames with a passion. So I'm watching the game because hockey's back on, and I don't really care one way or the other. This is the Jets-Calgary series. Don't really care who wins. And then Matthew Tkachuk goes after the best player, on Mark Scheifele, on the Jets. And it's completely obvious to me, although I've had very intelligent hockey people tell me that I'm off my rocker, but it looks to me 100% like Tkachuk lifts his skate and puts it into the Achilles tendon of Scheifele as they go into the boards on purpose. It's such an unnatural move if you watch the replay that happens. And, of course, Scheifele's out. And I'm just I hate that kind of shit. When you like a dirty play to try and take out the team's best player. I was on super tilt. And I was now I'm obviously Team Jets, even though they've lost two of their best players. But they did come back and win tonight. So, yeah. And then our old co-host MJ is just betting the Flames and loses every time he does that. So
aren't Canadians supposed to just cheer for the Jets by default because they had their team taken away from them by I remember the Vegas versus the Jets series was like this is the most unfair thing in the world. Vegas, their brand new expansion team. The Jets, they've just this scrappy little city of Winnipeg. They had their team stolen away. They finally got it back. Like that was the narrative across all of Canada. So I mean, I'm with you in hating the Flames because my entire childhood was also the Flames beating up the Canucks. But yeah,
because I bet a lot of money on the Jets to win the series.
Nice.
Of course, they get a bunch of injuries. They did win tonight, which is great. We had a good turnaround night because I had Edmonton as well, and they came back and won. So it's been a good look there. And it was crazy. Talk about I listen to a lot of hockey podcasts, and they all love New York Rangers. Every pundit that's a genius says, "Oh, Rangers are geared for an upset." Blah blah blah. So I went with all the information they gave me, and I bet everything I have on. Well, not everything, but I bet a lot on Carolina.
Yeah.
So far, 2-0. It's like when you hear that uniform opinion, it's almost like you have to ask yourself, where are they getting this from? Are they getting this from each other? Is it a hunch? It just felt like I don't know what they saw on a Rangers team that was just okay. Didn't make
Carolina's so deep. I can't believe that uniformly they were getting behind the Rangers because Carolina is such a good hockey team.
But if every podcast you listen to on hockey, everyone was Rangers all the way. Very few people like Carolina.
They had their number in the regular season. I think that's what people were basing it a lot on. But playoffs is a different animal. You just saw it. Look at the Canucks. They were terrible.
So I have no opinion on this, but for me, it's always show your receipts, right? So whether it's sports, whether it's financial analysts, like these Jim Cramer kind of guys who are touting particular stocks or saying the market's up or market's down, when you have a bunch of people who are paid money to be on TV and loudly make predictions and loudly have opinions, you got to ask them to show their receipts. Where's your betting slip that says you're betting on the Ranger? Because otherwise it's just talk, right? At the end of the day, it's just talk.
They're a trendy pick. Oh, Panarin, Vintage. I a couple players, but I'm like, dude, the team's not that good, bro. They're just they're in the middle of a rebuild. Carolina is one of the best possession teams ever. They don't maybe have this great goaltending, but it's all about so often I think in sports and sports betting, people like get sucked into like New York, Los Angeles, like that meaning something beyond what it means, which in terms of like the actual team, like Carolina, there's no sex appeal to the idea of Carolina. There's no sex appeal to the idea of Minnesota Wild, which is partly why I bet on them as well.
I mean, it's also better for the sport when a big market team starts doing well.
Yeah,
so they
right. So that's part of it, right? Like they fuel that. And then a lot of people who bet just think like big market.
But also, like all these sports podcasts, they have such bad takes. Like Bill Simmons, you can bet against anything he says.
Oh, yeah. It's Boston-centric for sure. All right, moving on. Daniel Wyman. So Vanessa Cade put out a tweet and said, what's the most absurd thing you've seen people bet on? And it had some great responses to this. Dan Wyman. That's
a great thread.
It is a great thread. Add Vanessa Cade, Kade, if you want to read some of these. It's pretty good. Dan Wyman, this is a good one. 100, 200 play money, 8-game versus Sean Deeb and 4 others play money players with 100% real money crossbook. So they were doing that. But the best one, part of this tweet, he says, picking horses in a 2-4 limit game at a casino with a 10,000% crossbook. Watching 90-year-olds play 200, 400 with your money really gets the blood going. Like, how sick is that?
That is fantastic.
So degen. Yeah, just like, okay, that guy looks like he could be good, even though he's 90. Let's fire him up.
I like that. There was another good one from that thread, which was Timex, and he said that he was out to lunch with a friend, and she was irrationally, in his opinion, worried about stealing her dog or somebody getting her dog stolen at lunch. I asked what her indifference point was if paid to have her dog stolen so that I'd take the risk. We agreed on 10,000 to 1, and she gave me $40 in exchange for 400,000 if the dog was gone.
Wow.
That is like Timex just laying insurance on somebody's dog getting stolen at 10,000 to 1 is the best thing. Is fantastic too.
Daniel would not be doing that any longer. Another Mike McDonald tweet. I'm pretty sure this is common, but I'm on my 3rd bullet of this WSOP event and only have been dealt 2 hands.
Wow. That's pretty
Which
good.
is great. All right, Roscoe, do we have some voicemails?
Yeah.
Let's do one or two.
Explain that tweet to me, though.
Sure.
3 bullets on 2 hands.
He's been dealt 2 hands. He's on his 3rd bullet. So
okay.
He's all in the first 2 and lost, and then
I had it backwards. I thought it was 3 bullets, 2 hands.
Right. It is. He's on his 3rd bullet. Anyway.
Yeah, I do have.
You have to pay your buy-in before you get dealt cards, Ross.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, buy stakes in me.
All right, voicemail up. Let's go. How many we got?
We have as many as you want.
Let's go 2.
All right.
Email number 1.
Hey guys, my name's Charlie. I'm from England, from Wimbledon. And I just wondered what your pre-poker routines are. So I know how easy it is to play poker mindlessly, and I'm really trying to get into a routine before I play online. So I'm playing a bit of blackjack, I'm meditating, and I just wondered what your pre-poker routines are. Also, thank you so much for the podcast. Really enjoy it. Thanks.
Did she
Charlie.
say blackjack? Did she say blackjack?
Charlie, stop playing blackjack before you play poker immediately. Please don't do that.
I wasn't sure I heard that right. I was like, meditation. Okay, that's a good one. Get some exercise and a walk.
Blackjack? No.
Blackjack,
not a good
probably.
one. Don't do that.
I mean, maybe if it gets you right.
You know what? It's a lot like cooking. It's a mise en place. Like I have to have my mouse pad in the right spot. You sit down. You're thinking straight. That's my approach.
I agree.
I will say the number one most important thing for being ready to play poker, especially for long sessions, bar none, and I'm not kidding, this isn't a joke, is sleep. And I would highly recommend finding some way in which to track your sleep. I've got an Apple Watch, but my wife got me for my birthday. It's called the WHOOP, W-H-O-O-P. You wear this thing 24/7, and it'll give you, like, it's for athletes, Rory McIlroy, and actually several of them wearing this figured out they had COVID. Just like told them they had COVID.
Wow.
So it is super intense. It will give you your sleep recovery. It'll give you your sleep score, recovery score, your strain per day. But the most important thing is to track your sleep in such a way where you're not just saying like, okay, how long was I in bed, but how much good sleep am I getting? And make that a practice, because if you're trying to play at a high level and you're not getting the adequate sleep, it's going to cost you. There's like very few, like everyone who says, well, I get by on 6 hours just fine. I'm like, all right, imagine what you would do at 7.5. right? You'd be so much more functional and so much better. There's no question. When you do age, as you get past like 60 or 70 years old, studies have shown you need far less sleep. But for the most of us, like getting good interrupted sleep where you're not being distracted, there's no better preparation for a poker tournament than feeling well rested. Just like, and also listen, sometimes I get it. You're not going to get enough sleep, right? So you're only going to get like 6 or 7 hours. Taking a nap, I just watched this on the bright side because I've learned so much from YouTube. Or no, actually from the Whoop app. Taking naps, power naps are valuable. If you take them between the 10 and 20 minute range, that's ideal, or 90, right? You don't want to do anything between 20 and 90 because 20 and 90, theoretically, according to study, says it can make you actually more groggy. So taking a 35, 40-minute nap.
Uh-oh. Frozen. Mexico internet.
Fantastic expression on his face, too.
Better
now than when he was in the tournament, but he was... okay, all right. Well, I'll pick it up from there. He's absolutely right that I just can't, like, there's frozen Daniel on my screen. I can't even talk about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, sleep is the most important thing. I'm so happy that he mentioned that. I've gone off the tracking thing. I tracked my sleep for a really long time, but I think there's a lot of doubt on the efficacy and accuracy of all the sleep tracking technology, so I kind of stopped doing that. But I do absolutely prioritize sleep. That is absolutely Daniel is right, and that's absolutely the number one most important thing is sleep and getting good quality sleep. If you can manage to take a nap during a poker tournament, that's great. I mean, most poker tournament breaks are too short, but if you're going to nap before, say, like a 3 p.m. start tournament, I think that's super useful. I get a moderate amount of exercise before poker days. I don't get a lot of exercise. I find that high intensity exercise, it makes me tired kind of prematurely. So I know a lot of guys, they're successful on the MTT scene by, going in and running 20 miles and, bench pressing their weight 100 times, but that's not me. I do like a really light exercise on training days, just really aerobic and easy. If I lift weights, it's high weight, low repetition, that kind of stuff, and just eat good. And since Daniel's not on the call right now, I'll say usually I'm keto on poker days because it helps my brain work properly. The meditation is fantastic, gets you in the right mindset. I mean, there's obviously no shortage of mindset resources on the internet these days. Mason Malmuth will be really upset that I mentioned this. I doubt he listens to this thing, but Mason never liked the mindset thing. But I mean, I always thought it was a good thing to get into. I think
diet. Let's not forget diet.
Yeah, I mean, just eat healthy. Whatever your diet is, just eat healthy. Don't eat some shit that you pulled out of a box.
Yeah,
all
right.
Remember, eat good.
Not tilting is obviously better than tilting.
David is correct. That is true.
And another
Alcohol is bad. You shouldn't drink alcohol.
All right, voicemail number 2.
All right. By the way, we've lost Daniel.
We've lost Daniel.
All right. So we'll do this one without him.
What if it's about Daniel?
Yeah, I don't actually remember. So
all right, let's try it out. See what happens.
Email number 2.
Hey guys, it's Brendan from Ottawa. So loving the hockey trivia. I'm 19 years old. I'm going into my third year of university. I've been grinding live poker, live 1-2, 1-3 for about 2 years. Online micro stakes, cash, and tournaments for about 4 years. Pretty break even, losing a little bit, but not horribly. I'm not bleeding money. And my question for you guys is, how do I really take my studying to an elite level? I've done Daniel's masterclass. I've read a few Dan Harrington books. I'm just starting on the Upswing Lab. And if I want to become the so-called young wizards, how do these guys like Fedor and Bryn Kenny really study at an elite level? How do they use solvers? How do they study ICM to, win these big high rollers? So thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Brendan probably got the Radic Bonk question. I'm from Ottawa. I'm sure he got it. It's funny that he mentioned Bryn, right? As a sort of a young wizard who studies all the math.
That is one of the funny that he's the absolute outlier. Bryn apparently does
probably the one guy that you don't want to throw into that group. Having said that, it's a good question. I mean, I think there's probably, it sounds to me maybe like there's a little bit of overload, and people, I think I've seen this before, when people are trying to learn poker, they'll just try and consume as many teaching resources as possible. And at some point it becomes in one side of your brain and out the other, right? Unless you're actually processing the information that you're reading and understanding it and seeing it applied to, poker hands, that just reading about a concept, or many concepts and not really totally understanding them, I'm not sure that that's doing you any good. I think you get overloaded at some point. I think for me, and I remember back when I was, trying to consume resources just like people are now, I would sit there and reread them and reread them and reread them and reread them till I was confident in myself that I understood exactly what the concept I was trying to learn was.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, at some point you just got to play poker. I mean, but it sounds like Brendan's been doing that. He's been playing for 4 years, even though he's 19, which is earlier than we started, let's just say. So he's been doing this for a while. And yeah, you've got to go out in there and play, and you've got to try to utilize the concept that you learned. And there is no shortage of training materials out there. And I think all those training materials are very good. They're very useful. The other thing that helped me big time when I was coming up was having a peer group, where it was having people that you can talk about your hands with, and people that will just keep you accountable. And there are places to find those. I mean, we live in the online world now. If you go out there and you make friends online, you make contributions to message boards, to Discord chats, to wherever people that various places people talk about poker, on all the different forums, you find yourself a study group. You work, and that's how the really elite guys are getting there. They're using solvers, but they're also teaching each other how to use the solver. I mean, that's a skill in itself. I mean, I've used Pio. It's not like a piece of thing where you're just like, oh, I had this hand and he had this hand, and let's mash it together and see what happens. No, you've got to figure out how you're assigning your ranges and your bet sizes and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of work to study in poker, and not everybody will be able to do it. And as the Bryn Kenny example mentions, not everybody has to do it. Bryn's obviously super successful without having ever touched a solver or read a book. I mean, if the stories are to be believed. Everybody's got to find their way in poker. And there is some idea that natural talent plays a role. There's also some idea that working hard plays a role. And I think both of those things are really important. But I think if you are dedicated, you will work hard, and you find people who hold you accountable, you'll be successful in this game. And it sounds like Brendan has all the right tools. If you really want to be successful, you have your emotional control locked down, you're working hard on your game, you're studying, you have people who will keep you accountable. I think you're going to be successful in poker, at least in the near term, until poker becomes way too hard for everybody, and we all lose.
Yeah, back in our day, we actually had to become in real life friends to get a peer group. It wasn't just like
it's way easier now. Yeah,
it's way easier. Let's do a email. I got an email selected here from April, so we should probably get this one done. Roscoe, hit the drop.
Email number 3.
Alex writes, I've seen many convoluted attempts at a definition on the internet, so I'll ask, what exactly does turn a hand into a bluff mean? Terrence, you want to take a shot at it?
Sure. So, I mean, the thing is, usually when we think of bluffs, we think of hands that do not have showdown value, right? So, you have 8-6. The board is ace, king, queen, queen, 10. You obviously you're never going to win, so you bet. So that's not turning a hand into a bluff. Turning a hand into a bluff is an example where you mostly started out with a significant amount of equity. Maybe something like top pair on the flop, but by the end, the board is run out in such a way that your hand has much less showdown value, if not none. But what you may have is something like critical blockers, or what you may have is an uncapped range. So the way that you've played the hand means that your opponent can't have the nuts or many very strong hands, but the way that you've played the hand, have all of the strong hands still in your range, still in your distribution. I think I think that's the best explanation I can give. Really good example of somebody who turned a hand into a bluff. I don't know how many shows ago, Ross, was it that our young American Australian friend post flop Malone sent in a hand? How many shows ago? Do you remember what show number that was off the top of your head?
A long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but if you can find that one, maybe we'll post it in this show thread if we can find it. Actually, there was a hand.
I'll find it. Just a sec.
She turned a hand into a bluff. I think she had something like Jack 10 suited and flopped like top pair with a I don't remember exactly how the hand goes, but it was like top pair with an open ender. But by the end of the hand, she was very positive that her opponent had pocket aces, and she decided to shove all in to try to get him to fold the pocket aces. So that would be an example of turning a hand into a bluff. It's a hand that, you know, nominally looks strong, and usually you would just kind of check it and be like, I have top pair, I'm good. But because of the circumstances, because the hand has played out, that you are now bluffing with it, and yeah, I mean, that's
Okay.
It was episode 64.
there you go, episode 64, somewhere near the end of the show.
About an hour and 16 minutes in.
Oh, there you go. You're on the ball on that one.
Nice. You want to bang off one more voicemail? Let's do that.
Oh my God, you're so greedy.
I know.
We're missing the star of the show, and you're just doing this.
We'll try and get some out
It's
of
all
it.
right.
Why are we doing this?
I think I've got one that sounds like Terrence could answer. Both of you have been to Australia.
Yes.
We have. Daniel hasn't.
Email number
004, hit my thumbs up on the low.
Hi guys, my name's Sam. I'm from Australia. I was just calling as Australia has this culture of doing deals on final tables, final four, final three, paying bubble, all those kind of things. Obviously, we don't see this on TV in the World Series of Poker, but I have to assume that there are deals done at the main event. So I'm just wondering, do you know of many deals that are done? Is it like the whole final table doing deals before they come back, especially back when obviously it was November 9? Or, the top three, or, when they come back after they've knocked out at three players, they come back with the final six, maybe they're doing deals. And of course, if the casino don't recognize those deals, how are they enforced? We're obviously talking, the potential of a couple of $1 million. How would that be enforced rather than, for example, Martin Jacobson has done deal second place and he just wins and he just says that there was never a deal done, and walks away with a full top prize. How often are the deals done? Do you know, is it every main event people are doing deals, or is it a rarity? Thanks, guys. See ya.
So why don't I take this one? I think, the World Series of Poker, as you mentioned, does not process deals. Some casinos will, and they'll help and figure out money, and they'll attribute the money to the player's account when they cash out. World Series of Poker doesn't do that. They haven't, and it's unfortunate that they don't. The deals, do they happen? They don't happen very often, in my experience. They do happen though, and there has been a case where a person got stiffed that was doing a deal in a World Series of Poker event that was a fairly large amount of money. I know that people I know have done deals at the final three, and they're honored. But the problem is, as the money gets bigger, the incentive for somebody to stiff you gets bigger as well. So they're generally not done. You got tax issues for Americans as well, because you got to work that out, the tax liability, et cetera. And especially with the main event, I think it's pretty dangerous. I don't know of any, main event final tables that have had deals done, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
I know that Greg Merson did one.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it all there. It's very rare. It's almost always heads up when it happens, and it's always between two people who trust each other very well, or at least they can find a third party that will vouch for both of them. At the World Series, as you said, it's very rare for that reason. The other thing is, you mentioned taxes briefly, but just to make that clear, sort of, if Adam and I are heads up in a tournament, let's pretend we're American just for the sake of it, and first is 100,000 and second is 75,000, we could decide the chop it at 87.5. But the thing is, if Adam is the official winner of that tournament, he's going to be on the hook for a $100,000 tax bill. I'm going to be on the hook for the $75,000 tax bill. And so obviously Adam's going to have to pay more taxes than me. And so if we're friends, we can work that out. But if we're just kind of two strangers passing in the night, that's not so much a liability. Caesars will not say, oh, these guys both cashed for 87.5. They'll say Adam cashed for 100,000, Terrence cashed for 75,000. The EPT is a very different story. So the deals are very common on the EPT because they've got the background of Stars, and Stars has been doing deals for a long time. They've got it in the software. They've always encouraged it. I think it's the right way to go. The EPT has always facilitated deals. What their policy with the deals is, they usually say you have to play for something. So if first place was like €1 million and second place was 750,000 euros, and they decide to both make a deal for 800 and something, they'll say, okay, you have to play for the last 100,000 euros and the championship, because they wanted, they got a televised product too. They want people to play for something. So you're playing for the last $100,000 or some amount of money, and the trophy and the title of being called DPT champion or whatever. But they will do the paperwork. They'll put it in their official payouts, and they'll do all that stuff. Much more player friendly experience the World Series has done. We can hope for a day that the World Series will facilitate the deals, but it does not seem like they have any interest in doing that. And I think that's unfortunate. That is the player unfriendly position to take.
It is, yeah. It's unfortunate indeed, and I wish they would consider that. But the lawyers, the problem is they're the lawyers for Caesars for whatever reason feel like it's not something in their best interest.
I mean the lawyers, they're not the only casino there are other casinos in Nevada who will facilitate deals. So I mean, go talk to their lawyers.
They have the wrong lawyers. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks to everybody out there for listening, tuning in. Thanks for getting together. Daniel cut out of shade early, but that's
computer died. Free computer accident.
So, Roscoe, people want to get in touch with the show as far as the voicemail line goes. We've cleared off a couple. We're going to look for some more. What's the number to call?
Oh, there's a lot. But 1775-434-2932. Keep it concise, clean.
Under a minute. And clean.
Practice it.
Clean's not important.
Before you send it to us. And then, just, Twitter's also the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Hit the Twitters. Thanks to you guys out there again for tuning in, and good luck to everybody playing World Series of Poker events this week on GG, and that includes you two. So we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.